asleep on me. I don't know what to do with that. Like, yeah, maybe. There's a thing of them right over by there. Well, we've got you right here.
Right here, okay.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening. Good evening.
We have name tags?
Yes.
How's it going? All right, we are
Can I just leave that
separated.
right there?
It doesn't say I surrender?
Hello? Oh, we're mic'd.
I don't know.
Just put it in.
817-771-4249.
Okay.
Okay.
Her name is Grace.
Okay. Yeah.
So give her your contact and I'll let
Okay.
her take it.
Sounds good.
Have her call me. I'll be able to at least give her some information and
That's awesome.
her name out there.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, I'm going to call the work session on Monday, May 11th, 2020 to order. We'll start with the roll call. Moore, here. Mattison, absent. Commissioner Bond,
Here.
Commissioner Syed, absent.
Absent.
Commissioner Cook,
Here.
Commissioner Holt. Here. Commissioner Bevel.
Here.
Hi, Claudia.
Hi.
Okay. Ready? She's on the screen.
Oh, there she is. I was like, wait, I hear her voice, where is she?
Hi, hi.
There, okay.
Okay, so we just have a couple items on our work session agenda to go over. These will also be on our regular agenda, but since we haven't met for so long, we're doing a little bit of double duty tonight.
Yeah, who are you again?
Yeah,
This is a joke.
I don't recognize you with the long hair, yeah. Or the beard, yeah. All right, so the first item is one actually that you guys have seen before, but it has changed a little bit. This is a special use permit for an accessory building to exceed the allowed lot coverage, 4% lot coverage allowance, as well as a reduction in setbacks to property lines. This is at 2313 Hall Johnson Road. So that was the aerial photo. This is the zoning. It's currently R20. It is designated for residential, or I'm sorry, commercial, but it is an existing single-family residential use. This is the one where they built the large detached garage there in the back of the property. It did, last time you saw it, there was the consideration of occupying both this structure as well as the house in front. So now this is just identifying and recognizing the house in the front will remain. This will no longer have the dwelling component. This will just be an oversized accessory building that they're requesting as part of the special use permit request.
The front house will just be an accessory building.
The front is the house. That will
House.
become,
Okay.
that is the
Alright.
primary structure.
All right.
And so there is a tenant living in that house, and there will be no occupying of this structure.
It's just a garage.
It is a garage. And so, as an accessory building, though, based on the height, there are some setback issues. They don't fully comply with that. So that is also the second component to the special use permit request, is to maintain the existing setbacks. And I'll show you that here pretty quickly. Let's move forward. So in your packet, there was all of the language from the Land Development Code. Basically, it's greater than 4%. And then as a detached accessory building, and in relation to the height, they do not meet the required setbacks from the side property lines, so that's both the east and the west sides. Here's the site data. It is a 41,000, almost 42,000 square foot lot. It is R20, which allows 25% lot coverage, and then a 4%, that's the accessory building size allowance, which would only be 1,672 square feet. The proposed building is just over 4,000 square feet, so that by itself is 9.6%. When you add in the existing house, together it's 11.6% lot coverage. So they are well under the maximum allowed lot coverage, but the accessory building is more than double the allowed size on the 4%. All right, we'll go to the next one. Here's the site exhibit with the new garage in the back. So on that west side, it is only 10 feet away from the property line, and then on the east side is 14.3 feet. As a primary structure, it would meet the setback requirements, and we have a 10-foot minimum side yard setback requirement. But as an accessory building, it's all dependent on the height. You can start at 5 feet, but then you can only be 8 feet tall. The ridge runs east to west, and at the top of the ridge, it's almost 25 feet tall. At that height, they would have to meet a 22-foot setback from both of those sides. You do have the floor plans. I think you have seen those before. It did have a unit in there, but that is going away. It is not going to be a dwelling unit. They are removing that option. Here's the data on the size of the building. So again, it would be a 22-foot setback on the east and well, actually from the two sides and the rear, but they do meet the setback on the rear. Be on the two sides where they do not comply with the setback. Some photos. Keep going. And so that's the building in question. The view on the left, the picture on the left, that's the view from Amador Trail, which is the street just to the east. There's one property in between separating them, so there's a clear view there. Next. So the applicant has provided some renderings. He is proposing to install these Italian cypress trees. This is the view looking south from Hall Johnson Road, so that would provide quite a bit of screening as you drive by on Hall Johnson, and as well as some along the eastern boundary. So this is a view looking west from Amador Trail. So he is proposing some screening to help offset the visual impact of the building. And both of these requests can be asked through this special use permit process. We did receive, at the time I put this slide together, it was 11 total responses, all in favor. And we've received 2 more, both in favor. I think they were provided for you in front of you. So that brings it up to 13 all in favor. We've not received any formal response back in opposition. And we are recommending approval with a contingent on screening of the accessory building from adjacent properties. And so they've done that from at least the street views at this time. I can answer any questions.
And that is included in this SUP, the cypress tree screening?
Yeah, so this was provided to us today, and so if that is what makes it acceptable to you, then we would make that part of the motion during the regular agenda item, and it would be included as it moved on to council.
Okay. Did this ever get to council, or did we vote on this and then we just?
It was going to council there was some communication preliminary to it actually going to a meeting, and it was decided to go ahead and modify the request, so they withdrew that item and resubmitted with this item.
Good, looks good.
I just have a question. Remind me, how did we get here? Because obviously the buildings are there, right? I always have a more challenging time when we're kind of looking at things in the rears, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how did we get here?
So this was originally permitted as a primary structure,
That's right.
and they were going to, so at the time I was using a definition of accessory dwelling in the noun form. And so with the front house, they were going to remove the stove and the oven, which would mean it's not technically a dwelling in the noun form. However, that was reinterpreted to include the verb form of dwelling as well, and that's what created all of these issues. And so it was permitted as a primary structure. The house was going to be just an accessory building. But with the verb form of dwelling, that means nobody could occupy that structure. So we were going through the SUP to allow for the accessory dwelling on top of this. Now, it's a slight change, but it's fairly significant. That is to remain as the primary dwelling. And now as an accessory building, we have the size and the setback issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Claudia?
Well, when we discussed this before, I didn't understand that they were wanting to remove the kitchen from the front dwelling because they have an occupant there. Was that an option at that time? I mean, is that something that was offered up at that time?
That was the option in order to get the permit initially, because otherwise it would have been an accessory dwelling and they would have gone through the special use permit process. Again, in that noun form, does it have all the components to qualify as a dwelling structure? And while they were constructing the garage as a primary structure, that's where the term for dwelling was brought in to include the verb form, and that's what created the problem for the applicant.
Well, I kind of understand how the problem was created, but when we first heard this, I don't believe it was an option to vacate that house. We didn't talk about that. I guess that's my question. Did we talk about that?
A little bit.
I don't recall.
Yeah, that was why the accessory dwelling part was included last time, so that it basically identified a primary dwelling and an accessory dwelling, so both would be authorized for somebody to dwell in either structure.
That's what I understood.
That's
Okay.
right. And that's now been removed with this item.
So we didn't modify the front structure, we modified the back structure,
That's right.
which is exceeding the square footage and the height and the setbacks, all of those things.
Right.
Is that correct?
It's really just the square footage and the setback. The setback is determined by the height of the building. There's not really a violation for the height. It's just that they
Okay.
work together to create the setback.
So we have a setback on each side and a square footage issue. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
No, just one more thing. I know we'll spend a lot of time, because this, again, it's there. So if we or the city council says, or they end up saying no to this, then what do they do?
Yeah, the really only solution to occupy the larger structure would be to remove the tenant from the house in front.
Yeah.
Because it was permitted as a primary structure, so as long as that's where the
But now
dwelling is taking place, and as long as the front building is vacant.
Yeah, that was then.
That
But
would
now
work.
they're saying we're gonna keep the front house as the primary dwelling. The back will just be an accessory building with no living quarters.
Right.
Okay, so
But
that gets denied, then what do?
It goes back to where no one can live in the house in the front.
Yeah.
And they
okay,
would
that's-
occupy this as the primary structure.
All right.
I think it's also worth noting, we got here because we changed how we view something after we had approved the plans the city had and all that stuff. I wouldn't imagine we're getting here again. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry, Ryan, can you all speak into your mics so that I can hear?
I was just saying that I think it's worth pointing out that this was a unique time where we were looking at the word dwelling as a noun.
That's how we were.
And then they came to us and said, we want to build this. They brought plans, the city approved them. We changed to a verb after that. We're here, there's a young family in that house, the barn is built. Let's find a way to move on. You know? I mean, none of us can turn back to how we got here.
Right.
You know, we're trying to, I think, as a community and a group to just better our community as we change this, change that, you know, as we move along. But this happened to be the one thing that got hung up in there.
Right.
So.
And one thing I forgot to mention is the Land Development Code has changed to prohibit any accessory structures forward of a primary structure, which we did not have when this was originally permitted. So this could not happen in the future. This really will be kind of a one and done type situation.
So that is actually a third, I'm sorry. So that's actually a third variance from the way it's written right now in the ordinances.
No, not at this time, because the front structure is going to be the house, and that is the primary structure, so it now complies with this request in that regard. But I was just pointing that out as far as if that regulation was in place when this originally came to us, they wouldn't have been able to even get a permit under the way that we did it, because it would have had an accessory building in front of the primary building, which is no longer allowed. So we've kind of fixed what some people deem as a loophole, and so that's been rectified.
I'm good.
Okay. Good. Okay.
So again, the variances we're considering are variances on each property line to the side of the bigger building and the square footage of the accessory building.
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to the next item. Again, this is also on the regular agenda. This is a special use permit request for a daycare center. And this is up in our Winding Creek edition, which is 6412 and 6416 Colleyville Boulevard. If you know of the wedding venue that was recently finished, it's in that same development, just to the south. They will be taking 2 lots, combining it into one for a daycare facility. It is PUDC. The existing zoning allows for office and some retail, the retail primarily being along Colleyville Boulevard. When we look in the Land Development Code, a daycare center is allowed by special use permit in our office district, as well as I think 1 or 2 of our commercial districts. And so that's what spurred this special use permit request. Just another view of the site. We'll get to these are the affected, or I guess the influencing elements of the existing PUDC as far as the uses, the square footage allowed for office. I did look at what was approved versus what is proposed. They are not exceeding anything that was already committed for these 2 lots that they will take over. It will be a single story. Go ahead. And they will have to comply with lighting, landscaping, buffering, and open space, and then fences and screening, and then the hours of operation. On that fences and screening, the developer did construct the masonry wall required along that western boundary. That was last year. As part of the wedding venue project, the developer was required to go ahead and put that wall in, and they did along the entire boundary. Here's the site exhibit or zoning exhibit. So it's about a 10,000 square foot building, single use for daycare facility. They are providing the required parking, and they do meet the required setbacks. Go ahead. Here's some building elevations. We did evaluate the articulation requirements. They do comply with that. That's the offsets both in and out as well as up and down on the roof line and at the footprint. And this is just a color elevation. They do have a mix of stone and now I can't remember if it was brick or stucco, but I think it was brick. Okay. They do also have landscape plan as well as the utility plan, grading plan, and drainage plan. If this does get approval through the process, we will formalize everything through our site plan process, where we will do a little bit more detailed review than what we've done already, but that's just a staff review and approval. But they have provided quite a bit of information to show how it would work. Yeah, we'll just go through these. This is a photo of the wall that was installed by the developer. They're on their backside. We did receive 2 formal responses back, both in opposition. Those letters have been provided to you. And staff is recommending approval. I can answer any specific questions.
So behind that wall is where the residents, I'm trying to see where that wall is.
Site plan?
Oh, keep going back.
There was a slide just a minute ago that showed the houses.
Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
There.
Yes, Claudia, you're right. Those homes are right there on the other side of the wall.
Okay, and what is that space going to, is that where the buildings are going to be?
No, on this photo, the buildings will actually be in the more middle part of the property, and then the parking will be to the north or towards the top and then towards the internal drive. So on that backside closest to the residents will be the outdoor play areas that they have planned.
Okay, and that's where the wall is back there.
Yes, the wall is right on the property line, the red property line.
Okay. So they're going to put playgrounds back there.
Yes, but not all the way to the property line. I think they required 15 feet of open area. They will be required to put some tree plantings in that 15 feet as well. So it won't be all the way directly to the wall. There will be at least 15 feet separation.
Are they going to be losing trees in that area?
Let me get to their tree plan.
Okay.
Yeah, so there will be some trees that come out primarily because of the building, but a little bit also because of the play area. But they are maintaining the ones that are directly on the property line. And then to the south, they are preserving some as well.
Okay. Now, does this say, that print is so small it's hard to see on the monitor? Does it say how many trees they're losing?
I don't see that they've done a total just on the chart that they've provided, but I can count those. Well, it does look like the majority are to be removed. I think a lot of them is based on the location of where the building pad is going, and then others are just ones that are not ones that we really want to preserve.
Okay.
But our urban forester has looked at it, and he has signed off on the tree removal part, at least the plan that was
Okay.
presented to us.
Okay. And then do they have a landscape plan for the front area?
Yes, that's right. So that's the, I think, do we have one more? Go to the next one. Not that one. You do have it in your packet. They are doing a row of shrubs along the entire boundary, and then they do have some trees or larger plantings up close to the parking lot on the north side, and then quite a bit along the south and in the front as well.
Okay. Okay, those elevations didn't show any plantings
Yeah, the
that
building
I could see.
elevations.
So.
Yeah, the building elevations did not include any of the trees or landscaping, and that was just for the building itself.
Okay, all right. Well, that's what, I didn't see anything, so I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, the two houses that were in opposition, there's a wall, a masonry wall. Then there's.
Is someone talking?
Yes, I am, Claudia, Kimberly. And then there's gonna.
Oh, Kimberly, can you be sure you speak in your mic? I can't hear.
Okay. And then there's gonna be how many feet of space?
Yeah, there's a required 15-foot landscape setback
Okay. And
from
then-
the wall.
Okay,
And so there's at least that much that will have to be open space. Now, if the kids play in that area, that's fine, but at least no playground equipment or improvements will be in that landscape area.
okay, but the plan is for that whole area behind those two property owners to be playground?
Yes, but after the 15 feet.
Yes.
That's right.
Is that right, though? But it looks like, again, I'm looking at the plan, the thing, it looks like there is a playground on the, I guess would be south end of the building, and then a playground, I don't know if where that is, north, south, east, west here, but on the bottom part of what we're looking at, there's a playground.
Yeah,
And
so they
there's
do
a
have that on the south side as well.
Yeah, and then there's a playground that looks like takes about a third of the building, again, on the backside along that fence. And then what is, I can't tell what that is here, what is this? Is this,
Well, this is the grading plan,
that's a,
but the rest
not
of
my
it is just going to be sodded area, so for the unstructured.
I guess what because I'm reading the opposition letters, and it's, you know, a couple things, but one of them is having a playground right in their backyard all the time. So I'm trying to better understand how big that playground is, because it looks like there's two of them. One that wouldn't impact them as much on the south end, and then one behind the building. How big is that? And it doesn't appear to take up a whole lot of the building, just a small portion of the backside.
Yeah, but the rest of the area will be for their field activities. It will be sodded, and so they could do their soccer, or I don't know what other programs they have, but.
And then I didn't catch this, or read it, but how many kids are they allowed to have in a 10,000 square foot childcare facility at a time?
Well, I don't think that we had in our land development code, it's all based on the number of students. And I believe that they told us it was, I might be misremembering the number, but 170 students, is that right? Oh, 190 students.
190?
Yeah.
Ages, all,
I think primarily it will be the
Pre-kinder.
younger age group, but there may be some after-school programs that older kids would come in.
I do have another question. So the playgrounds are defined. Will they be enclosed? So you're telling me there's like 15 feet from that wall to the playground? So are those playgrounds enclosed, or will the children be running and playing in those areas next to the wall?
Yeah, so they will not be enclosed, and so they could get down all the way to the wall. But because that's just the open grass area.
Uh-huh.
there'd be no restriction from them getting into that 15-foot area. But the playground improvements themselves, I actually believe that they're pushed back even a little bit further to be the 25-foot. My guess is that they're having some type of, I don't think it's a retaining wall, so to speak, but, some type of border to delineate the playground area. Typically, they put a different type of material in there, and then the rest of it will just be grass.
Not being familiar with childcare facilities, is there a limit as to the number of children who can be outdoors at any given time? I mean, that's probably in their rules, not necessarily our development rules, but I'm just curious because 190 children playing right there in my backyard wouldn't be too good.
Yeah, it's definitely not in the land development code.
Right, no, I knew
Yeah,
it wouldn't be. I just wondered if you had, if they had given it, well, we can ask them.
Yeah, in the regular session, you'll be able to ask that, and I'm sure
Yes,
they'll be able to.
yes, okay, thank you.
One other question, maybe better for that, but all for healthy competition, but there's another daycare facility pretty much across the street. So any opinion on, do we have the population to support both, or is there a risk one going out of business with the other there? I mean, I know you can't, but.
Yeah, it'd probably be better to ask them.
Okay.
We don't have any restrictions or limitations as far as
No, I
the
know that.
number, like a density type situation, or a distance between each type, but, yeah, it'd be something for them to answer if
Okay.
obviously, they feel that there is
Yeah.
a need for it, or else they wouldn't be here.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Those are the two items were the ones that you hadn't heard from the last time we did a work session. And again, they will both be on the regular agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
The work session meeting's now closed. We'll resume with the regular meeting at 7 o'clock.